All right, going back to the top story we are tracking here on DD India News are the latest developments in West Asia. And joining us is Ambassador Sanjay Bhachara. Ambassador Bhattacharya is a former Indian envoy to Egypt, Turkey and Switzerland. Ambassador, welcome to DD India News Hour. Now, first things first, how do you view the optics and outcomes, if any, of Rubio's visit to Qatar? Do you think he succeeded in salvaging the US-Qatar ties?
I think coming at a time when the Israelis have launched a major offensive in Gaza, which is most unfortunate, the continuance of war at a time when there is such a humanitarian crisis, Rubio's visit was necessary, but I doubt if it will have the desired effect. Because apart from the fact that this war is continuing and having disastrous humanitarian consequences, what it does show is that the world is getting increasingly divided, and those who do not support this war are growing in numbers. And so Rubio and the American establishment are getting kind of isolated, not only with their principal allies in Europe, but also with Israel's neighbors in West Asia.
Ambassador, as you correctly mentioned, Israel's military has indeed launched a ground offensive in Gaza City. What does Israel hope to achieve from it, and will it complicate matters further?
I think if you look at the kind of public protests that are ongoing in Israel, kind of opposition that has come from the various sources in the intelligence and even the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, and various segments of the population over there, it would be quite evident that this is not a unanimous decision of Israel. This is something that is coming from a certain group of people within the cabinet, and there are divisions even within the cabinet on this particular thing. So I think it's most unfortunate, as I said earlier, that there is a decision to continue and expand the scope of war in a situation, in a region where there is already a huge humanitarian crisis. I do not think it is going to achieve any objectives because the objectives have not been spelled out. The objective of eliminating Hamas is probably not going to work because the kind of antagonism that such actions create, not only amongst the Palestinians, but also amongst various communities across in that region, will be of a greater proportion. And secondly, if the intention was to recover the hostages, there have been many missed boats in the process, and the Qatar attack was certainly not one which would have helped the hostage being brought back. So I'm very doubtful if there are clear objectives that they wish to attain. My fear is that the security of Israel is being put into greater peril by its leadership currently.
Ambassador Bhattacharya, as we now know, Saudi Arabia and France will co-chair the two-state solution conference on the margins of the UNGA on 22nd September. Are Israel's actions counterproductive? For instance, are Israel's actions pushing more Western allies to recognize the state of Palestine?
Well, the honest truth is that there was a point of time when Israel itself had accepted the understanding of a two-state principle. But it was the detail of it which had not been worked out. And over a period of time, the two-state solution has receded in the minds of the Israeli current leadership. And I say about current leadership because this is not a certain uniform position across Israel. There is no solution other than a two-state solution. And I think not addressing the key issues of occupation and the attack, continuous attack on Palestinians is going to be a root cause. Israel will not have a veto on a two-state solution, and it has to recognize that as the pressure mounts on it across the globe.
And going back to Qatar, Ambassador Bhattacharya, the Qatar summit has mooted an Arab NATO or an Islamic NATO. By implication, attack against one Arab or Islamic country constitutes aggression against all Arab and Islamic states, similar to Article 5 of NATO. How do you view it?
I think this is a step that has been moved, but I'm not quite sure if this is going to gain much currency. The record of Qatar has also not been all that exemplary, but that does not justify the action that was taken by the Israelis against Qatar. That's another matter, because that was also a grave violation of sovereignty, which should not have happened. And Israel, I understand the chief of the IDF voted against that when that particular meeting was held, and Mossad was opposed to it as well, and it was pushed through by the Prime Minister and the Defense Minister at that particular instance. But I do think that there has to be a greater understanding and uniformity in the Arab position. The Arab position was actually coalescing on the eve of the 7th of October, when there were more and more countries that were wishing to align themselves with Israel, the kind of economic and technological and social change that it meant that the Arabs wanted to align themselves with. But I think what has happened in the last almost 2 years, during which Israel has launched attacks not only on Palestine, in Gaza and the West Bank, but also against a number of countries in its neighborhood, has obviously diminished its lure. The lure of Israel has certainly dimmed during this period. So while I am not fully hopeful that Arab unity will come about in the manner that has been proposed, I do hope that they will have a more positive agenda which will wish to engage with the Israel of the future.
Are you suggesting by any chance, Ambassador, that the Abraham Accords are not living up to their reputation?
Oh, they certainly are not, because the Abraham Accords were meant to be a platform which would bring about a greater sense of congruence and convergence in terms of the aspirations of the people. And they were actually very, very forward-looking in that particular context. And that was the reason why countries which were willing or wishing to undergo change, like Saudi Arabia in particular, were actually considering a version of the Abraham Accords. But the kind of treatment that has been dealt to the Palestinians over the last close to 2 years has been most appalling. And I think this will be a very great discouraging factor for even those who are currently members of the Abraham Accords. We do understand that there's already a sense of disquiet with even the closest partner in the Emirates. But I do hope that sense will prevail, the war will come to an end, and they will look forward to the reconstruction of Palestine. The two states will come about, because Israel will not have peace and security if it does wish to continue in the manner that it has over the last several months.
Ambassador, since you have served in Egypt and Turkey in the region, now there's no denying that instability in West Asia will affect the entire world, India included. Now, what can New Delhi do either on its own or in collaboration with other countries in the interest of peace and security in West Asia?
What can India do?
Yes.
Yes. I think currently the situation is too hot. And there have been countries on the periphery, particularly, I think the Qatari mediation was a very serious effort. The Egyptians, of course, were in the lead, and they had brought out a number of very constructive suggestions, but they were not accepted by the warring parties, unfortunately. So I do hope that once sense prevails, the influence of countries like Egypt will be taken more into consideration. The influence of Saudi Arabia will come about, and so that there will be a better sense in which quiet will prevail. I do wish to add at this point of time that there are two other peripheral countries. You mentioned Turkey, and there is Iran as well. The interests of Iran and Turkey in the region are often not entirely in alliance with the aspirations of the members of the West Asian community. And so there may be certain conflict situations that come about because of Turkish and Turkish and Iranian intervention. But I do hope that the kind of leadership that Saudi, Egypt, Emirates would be able to provide will bring about a sense of calm and sanity, which is quite lacking today, unfortunately.
So given the flux that we are witnessing in West Asia, Ambassador, what should New Delhi do? Stay the course or change tack?
No, I think India has to stay the course. India has a great currency on sides of the camp. I must mention that our bilateral partnership with Israel is of a unique nature, and it is something that has, in general, sustained the course of the war. There have been, of course, impediments. For instance, the Israelis have not taken heed to the continuous advice given by our leadership that this is not the time for war, that they should really have diplomacy and consultations. That has not been heeded. The IMEC project has been held back, has suffered greatly because of the continuance of the war. But our overall relation with Israel remains a very, very solid and secure one. At the same time, our partnership with the Palestinians is something that is admired by the Palestinians because we have always stood by them. And our support for the two-state solution has been absolutely steadfast, as was borne out even most recently in some of the deliberations in New York. So I think at this point of time, it is necessary for us to give our counsel to both sides to go for peace. I don't think this is a time when we can have any breakthroughs coming from outside. That particular realization will have to come from within. And once it does, I think the role of India will become more important because we can be an important interlocutor for both sides.
Ambassador Bhattacharya, pleasure as always to speak to you. Appreciate it. Thank you for your time.